Hey out there to everybody. Welcome to this new podcast. What now? What next? I'm Thomas, the Dad's divorce coach and certified high performance coach, and I am super excited that you're here presenting this new podcast right here. What now? What next? Listen, we all experience failure, whether it's experience from long ago or recent past. Failure creates a fear in all of us, a fear that we're never going to be successful again, a fear that we'll never reach that goal that we set so long ago or just yesterday, a fear that we'll never find love after separation or divorce, a fear that we're never going to get that promotion, a fear that we'll never be happy. Well, in this show, I'm going to be asking a simple but often avoided question on a regular basis. What now? What's next? Listen, so it didn't work as you planned, okay? So what's next? Are you going to let that fear of failure keep you from moving forward, keep you from healing, from continuing the process, from becoming successful, from finding love, from repairing that relationship, from getting that promotion? You can go on and on and on. And we will in this podcast. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about how to turn failure into freedom, how to turn that failure in your past into success in your future. Listen, fear can rob you of a lot of future happiness and success, and it's doing nothing that fear often wins. And I'm here to tell you, and part of this podcast is going to be a little bit of my own experience. I'm going to share with you from my life, from my experience, and firsthand how fear can rob you of that freedom and that happiness that you can experience in life and that you all deserve, no matter who you are, no matter what your experience, no matter what your past, no matter what the circumstances that you are listening to this podcast right now with. Fear often robs you from the freedom that you deserve to experience. And this show is about not letting fear take hold. It's about continuing on. It's about learning and living and mastering the fear and making our own success. I'm going to share with you from my own story, from others' experiences, from studies that I've had, from resources that I've either discovered, developed, or have found helpful myself, and just how successful today and tomorrow can be. Today, as a certified high performance coach, in a lot of other areas, I work with men and women who really have one thing in common. They want that thriving, happy life that they've dreamed of, they've worked for, but they don't yet have. They may have experienced failure at grand levels or at simple levels. People who just can't seem to take their life and work and love to that next level. Well, together here, we will evaluate desire, clarity, energy, purpose, practice, and many, many more things. And guys, listen, believe me when I tell you that the results of this process, the results of these practices that we're going to talk about together here, they're amazing. I'm going to share some fundamental habits and arenas and skills that have transported me from a broke, divorced, unemployed, middle-aged, out-of-shape guy into a happy, successful, and motivated professional that is excited for the next moment every day. This show is just a peek inside that rich, happy, successful life that can be yours. And no matter what kind of failure you've experienced, listen to me. What's next? What now? Freedom, happiness, success. That is what's next for you. So take a quick minute to subscribe as you're listening to this. Just find the link that you just followed to get this podcast today, and take a quick minute to subscribe to this podcast right now. There's no time like the present to start living today for building tomorrow and experiencing life every step of the way. And that's what this podcast is about. It's for anyone who is truly desiring that happiness, that success, the passion for living that you currently or in your past circumstances may have been robbed of. And that's affecting your today. And again, I'm going to share from my own experience how I found professional and personal success by embracing my failures and faults and fear and now I'm living that free life. I'm going to share my secrets on how I turn those setbacks into better performance as a dad, as helping me become a better friend, a better professional. I'll reveal skills and practices that have helped me overcome some of the greatest challenges in my life, and we'll go on that journey together. Today, what I do for a living in my work, I work with many others just like you, I'm sure, who are survivors of divorce or surviving divorce, many other experiences of failure. And I work with them to recover, rediscover, and revive the life they deserve. So, like you, I'm just here asking you to join me in finding out what's next. All right, so can I start by asking you a simple question? What do you see when you look in the mirror? I think that question for everybody, no matter where you are in life, is a little bit of an uncomfortable question because if anyone else ever saw what I saw me as I see myself in the mirror, I'd probably never get up and get out of bed in the morning. I'd probably go in my closet and hide. Because at one time or another, we've all experienced that bittersweet relationship with our own image, that inner struggle between the memories of our imperfections and our better angels. Self-worth can have a direct impact on many, many things. And if you don't believe that, just wake up and try to sustain your well-made plan for the day by 9 o'clock. If you wake up at 8, by 9 o'clock, it's gone to hell. Your goals, your dreams, your relationships, communication, freedom, healing, success, or failure. One of the most impactful effects on how you see yourself can be the process of how you embrace or avoid your own failure. Possibly, when you look in the mirror, maybe all you see is a bunch of mistakes. You're sure going to see the imperfections of life, and the gray hair and the complexion and all of those things. Do you maybe going a bit deeper? Do you see guilt about something? Do you see pain? Do you feel that? Does looking in the mirror and seeing those things bring those emotions and those responses and that memory back up? Do you see hopelessness? Listen, trauma is not an easy thing to talk about, and we're not going to be doing therapy in this podcast, but I'm not going to shy away from dealing with the effects of unresolved trauma that can turn us into our own worst enemy. And if you're listening to this, and you have breath and you have a heartbeat and you have life of any kind, then you are applicable to this concept. This is not lost on you. You're not going to be able to walk away from this and say he's talking to somebody else. Listen, we all have some unresolved trauma in our life. Maybe that's just some simple thing, and maybe it's some tremendously dilapidating trauma that's paralyzed us and kept us in that paralyzed place. Unresolved trauma can turn you into your worst enemy. It can transform your inner voice into your greatest strength as well, or your biggest opponent. The difference between those two people, whether the people that turn their traumatic experience of failure into their biggest strength or their greatest weakness, is really all in how you approach that failure and how you make friends with that event in your life. No, again, this is not going to be therapy, but you may find it therapeutic. It may, listening to this podcast and the points that I'm going to bring through my own experience may help if you're in therapy or you're in counseling or anything like that. It may bring some deeper insight to those things and may make things make sense a little bit more. And hopefully that's what you'll get from this. But I want you to imagine, if you will, if you were mindful enough to speak to yourself the way you speak to somebody that you love. How would that change how you talk to yourself, or how you in your mind's voice, how you talk about yourself or how you engage with your own conscience and your, that little voice in your head. Imagine for a moment, if you were to speak to yourself as you speak to someone you're in love with, how would that affect how you talk? We talk a lot about, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think that that's true. I do. I think that is, that's a very impactful lesson to learn in how you want to communicate and how you go through life. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I would say a little differently than that. It's not as much what you say as it is how you say it. I can tell you I love you in a way that comes across as I'm going to kill you, depending on how I say it. So it's not as much what I say as much as how I say it, but how do you speak to yourself? When you're looking in that mirror, how do you talk to yourself? When you're talking to friends or when you're talking to a loved one, how do you talk about yourself? Are you constantly putting yourself down? Are you constantly building yourself up? Think about that for a second. And that can actually bring a lot of clarity when you're standing there looking in the mirror as to whether or not you like what you see, or scratch that. Maybe not whether or not you like what you see, but how much you like what you see. Do you talk to yourself with compassion, with kindness? Or do you talk to yourself more combative or with more condemnation? I believe, at least in my experience, that how we look in the mirror will always, or nearly always, be motivated by what we're focusing on. Do we have a focus and a self-focus on what we've done wrong, what we've done right? Is our focus on the imperfections, or is our focus on the potential? Are we focused on that visualization of the dream or the goal that we have in our life? Or are we focused on what we did 25 years ago that just seems to never go away? Well, I want to share with you that your focus, your self-focus, the focus you have on yourself as you're looking in the mirror, can become a superpower. It can become as strong as Superman's flight or his vision, or it can become as strong as your biggest superhero. And I use Superman as an example, but just think about it. Think about the greatest superhero in all of fiction, and it can become as strong as that, stronger even. Put another way, the person who can turn a negative into a positive can never be defeated. I'm going to say that again because you need to hear it again. The person who can turn a negative into a positive can never be defeated. Years ago, I was going through a divorce, and I was sitting in a courtroom, and unfortunately, this divorce was not able to be dealt with just with us, or mediators or attorneys. This had to be dealt with a judge, and we were talking about who was going to be the custodian of our daughter. And I was sitting in the courtroom on a Valentine's Day, as a matter of fact, and I was listening, trembling in my seat for the anticipation of what the judge was going to say. And lots of things went through my mind. I can remember some of them. I can't remember most of them, but just I was sitting there in my seat just trembling because I was about to learn from a third person how my parenting and how my relationship with my daughter was just about to be affected. And I sat there, just watching the judge come into the room, standing up to attention, watching him sit down and get comfortable, and sitting back down and just grip. I remember gripping the arms of my chair tightly, imagining that, if you can imagine the blood stop ceasing to circulate in my going through my hands. And I remember sitting there and listening to him read his order that basically confirmed that my daughter was going to be allowed to move to another state, and I was going to have to travel hundreds of miles in order to continue to stay in her life. And it was probably one of the biggest moments of failure in my life that I can remember, past or present. Was that moment that I felt like I lost a potential. I lost the most important thing in my life at that time, was time with my little girl, time as a dad. I'll never forget the moment that she came into this world and made me a father. Up to that, at that moment when she was born, there was no failure in the world that could compare to or that could compare to that moment when I became a dad. There was nothing I'd ever done right or wrong up to that point that could eclipse my new role, my new job, and the person that I had been remade to be, and that was a dad. Since that day, it has always been my single most important role in my life, my highest priority, my first priority, and to the tune that jobs and friends have come and gone, and I'm sure some of the circumstances surrounding jobs that have come and gone have been affected by my priority to be as good a dad as I can be. But that moment was definitely one of the lowest points in my life, where I was sitting in a courtroom and listening to how my relationship with my daughter was going to be forever changed. And you talk about feeling powerless. You talk about feeling helpless, hopeless. I felt that at that time. And, this part of my life reminds me of a story that my father, actually, first heard from him. And I'm going to just summarize it here for you. And in this story, I think you're going to find some key elements that you can take away from this first podcast episode today. And that's that life is often like a hallway. So I want you to picture the hallway in your room. I mean, in your home or in your apartment, wherever it is that you live. We all have some semblance of a hallway, but picture with me, if you will. Just envision a fairly long hallway. At least 2 or 3 doorways in the hallway, walls on either side, kind of narrow, not necessarily really large or wide. And on either side of this hallway are, like any other hallway, there are pictures on the wall, framed pictures or collages or whatever that basically, have all of the, have the memories, the events of your life. And again, this hallway is metaphorical and in the story, but the hallway represents your life, and on both walls you'll see the different events that have come and gone in your life, and you'll see the successes and the happy times, the big events, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the first days of school and the graduations and the first day of work, that first promotion, all of those different things. You'll also see pictures that aren't so happy, that aren't so, that are not memories that are so memories that you want to remember. For me, this story that I just shared with you is definitely one of those pictures for me. Low points in your life, days that you want to forget, events that you hope never see the light of day outside the hallway. To put it another way in this context, this is a hallway that you probably don't want to allow anybody to walk through, because of that reason. Well, at the end of the hallway is a full-length mirror, and it goes from the ceiling to the floor, and it goes from wall to wall. And as you approach, walk through walk down the hallway, and you get closer and closer to this mirror. Well, I mean, what happens when you look in a mirror? What happens when you get closer to the mirror? The closer you get to the mirror, the more detail comes to light. The more detail you see, not only of yourself, but also of the hallway. In fact, if you look into this mirror, you might be able to visualize some of the events and pictures and memories that are hanging on the wall. When you get to the end of this hallway, and the end isn't like the end of life, it's just when you get to this mirror, life is a revolving door, and you're going to be walking and going on this journey until your journey ends. And as long as you do, you're going to have this mirror at the end of the hallway that you can see from any place in the hallway. And the question that I'm going to ask today, that I encourage you to contemplate, is the question that is titled with the podcast, "What's next? What now?" It's a question that we often avoid, and it's a question that we should really tackle and embrace, not only with the failure in our life, but especially with the success in our life. When we have the success, we tend to gravitate away from the practices that have led us to the success. Here's what I mean by that. If you become, let me start this again. If you're going through a really low point, the tendency is going to be you're going to gain insight from that. You're going to start creating new habits, and those new habits are going to start giving you better routines and better practice, and the cycle goes on, and finally you're going to find some success, and that success is going to feel good, and you're slowly in the light of your success, in the wake of your success, you're going to, and this is generally speaking, this isn't for everyone, but generally speaking, you're going to start believing that success is something that you have achieved, and it's just going to carry you through. But one thing that we often forget is that any success we are experiencing is because of the insight and the practice and the things that we've put in our life to get us through that hallway and to take that staircase and go up that ladder, to take that step-by-step process to get to the success. But we convince ourselves in the wake of that success that we don't need those practices anymore. And so they become less and less the habit and the routine, and more that successful time starts to drop off. And all of a sudden before we know it, we find ourselves down in that pit of despair again. And it's a vicious cycle of life. And I know you can all relate to what this is, but what I found in my walk, what I found in my experience, as I have looked my own failure like in the face, like looking at myself in a mirror, what I found is this: the secret that I found to not allow my failure and the fear that the failure creates to keep me paralyzed in that position, paralyzed in that room of despair. The secret to getting out of that space and moving on, moving forward, moving up is not what I look at. It's what I focus on. The key and the success to moving past your failure is to change your focus. Focus is, like any athlete will tell you, focus is everything. It shapes your motivation. It can shape your purpose. It can shape your accomplishments. It shapes your productivity. It can shape your energy. It can create your clarity. It can do so many things based on what you choose to focus on. You can influence and impact many, many people when you choose to see the best in yourself and in others. when you choose to focus on the freedom that you've gotten from the failure instead of the fear the failure creates. I know you've experienced failure in your life. I know you have. If you're breathing, you have. Maybe that failure and the fear that comes from it is fresh. Maybe you're still in the midst of that paralyzed room, not sure where the door to get out is. Maybe you're in the middle of feeling pain or loss from a separation or a divorce. Maybe you're feeling stuck in a place that you just can't seem to get unstuck. Oh, it's never too late to start moving forward in your life. It's never too late to start moving forward in your life. Sometimes we just need a little help. When you're in a dark room and you can't find the light switch, sometimes you just need that light on the back of your cell phone. Sometimes you just need a little flashlight to help guide you to the bigger light that will help bring everything into clear view. Sometimes you just need a couple new practices to put in place. And yes, sometimes you need a whole set of new guidelines to get you off this track that you built for yourself. But no matter what the circumstance you have, no matter what the circumstance that you bring to this podcast today, no matter where you are currently sitting in life, it's never too late to start moving forward. So don't let that doubt and discouragement block you today from realizing that the life you deserve is yours. You deserve it. It doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter how much you feel like a failure. It doesn't matter, how successful you are. You still have that potential in life to just really experience that thriving, happy life. So don't let that doubt and discouragement keep you where you are. Don't let the failed relationship you're getting through or getting over or trying to survive keep you from recognizing you deserve happiness. You deserve that happiness in life. Don't let the pain of your past keep you from building a freedom in your future. I could have stayed in that room and I could have chosen to live forever, grounded in that courtroom of failure when I learned that I was going to lose immediate and daily access to my little girl. I could have let the circumstances in my life keep me from moving forward. And let me tell you, I have to admit, for a long time, I did. For a long time, I felt and lived in that metaphorical room, darkness, hopelessness, loneliness, whatever you want to, you can name an adjective, and I probably felt it. And you can probably identify with me whether or not you've gone through this same experience. But for a long time, I did. I lived there. I worried about what others thought or said about my life. I allowed myself to be crippled by the choices that I regretted. Seriously, I mean, how can somebody like me, my track record, my choices with my baggage ever be happy again? How can someone like me with my choices in my past ever truly be able to help somebody else recover or move on or love life? Yeah, right. That was me. Does it sound familiar? Is that what you see when you look in the mirror? Fear plays a lot of tricks on us, and it can cripple even our energy and purpose and outlook and motivation. But you don't have to be a slave to your fear anymore. I discovered a simple process, simple practices that I've developed and that I teach with my clients and coaching, as well as just talk about on podcasts like this. It's those things that have taken me out of that deep, dark room full of fear that keep me paralyzed and in place and helped me move forward. And today, not very long removed from the lowest point in my life, I have redefined what's next for me in my life. And today I help others just like you find that new life that they deserve. Because guess what? You deserve it, no matter what the circumstances are surrounding your challenges, your difficulty, your trauma, or your failure. On this podcast, I'm going to share from my insights, like the one I shared today. I'm going to share from others' insights. I plan to interview people as well in things that they've overcome, resources and tools that I found effective. I'm going to pass on to you in this podcast. Excerpts from performance training, from recovery, from assistance of any kind, because this purpose and goal that I have is just in helping you reach your goals and realize your dreams of living that happy and thriving life. This podcast is something that is going to help you learn about those practices that I've discovered. You'll get to know me and my story and the journey that I found from failure to freedom. You'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to find out that, guess what? That light at the end of the tunnel is not a train. And you'll learn more about how to embrace the silver lining in that dark cloud of your past. So what now? What next? Simple. By listening to this podcast each time and embracing the other resources that we're going to share together here, what's next is entirely up to you. It's not going to be up to your circumstance anymore. Move forward. Forward from the pain, from the failure, from the past. Move up. Get that new job. Get that promotion. Start that new relationship. And this time with the skills and the practices that you know will work to make it better than the last one. Moving on. Finding freedom. Embracing life's challenges with joy, telling fear where it can go. So, I'm Thomas, the Dad's Divorce Coach, and until next time, everybody, live well. We'll see you next time.